started on the background. And it's the same technique we've been working on, putting our inspiration piece off to the side. So we're going to start darker blue down here and blend it up to the lighter blue up here. That's not quite white. I wouldn't say it's quite baby blue either, but it's misty. So we're going to start with that background with the back and forth motions. So on your paint palette, grab your white paint, your navy blue, or whatever color that you have closest to navy blue. All right, and then I've got a good puddle of blue. Now, you'll have to decide, do you want to start going darkest to lightest or lightest to darkest? In my opinion, I think if we start at the lightest and move to darkest, that would be best. That way your dark is not super duper dark. You can kind of decide just how dark to make it. Now take your medium size flat brush. We're going to start in pure white. We're going to put it straight across the top of your canvas using a back and forth motion. Don't be afraid to put too much paint on your canvas right now, because the wetter the canvas, the better everything's going to blend. Going back and forth and gradually pull the brush down towards you. And we're going to come down pretty far, just so that everything's nice and wet and will blend lovely. Don't forget about your edges. Okay, when your canvas is nice and wet and I've painted, just slightly over halfway down, I'm going to grab a little bit of blue. Just a smidge on my brush, not too much. And I'm going to make a line right at where I stopped with the white. And I'm going to keep blending it downwards, down towards me. And all that paint is coming out of my brush and is now mostly dry. That's when I'm going to go back up and start blending it into the white. Still with the back and forth motion, and I'm overlapping my brush strokes. And I'm going to take it as far into the white as the paint will travel. And we're going to repeat this process a couple of times. And our goal is to bring that light blue color to the top of our canvas. If your white paint is starting to get sticky or tacky feeling, just put more white paint on your canvas. And we're not rinsing our brush in between color changes. We're using all the color, all the pigment that's still in the brush. So I'm using white paint for my base. Now this part of my canvas down here is dry, so I'm just making it wet, putting some white paint right onto the canvas, and still haven't rinsed my brush. We're using all of the pigment that's in our brushes. Okay, the color variation that I'm using now is blue, because I've got the white on the canvas already. It's going to lighten that deep blue color. You just blend it in by moving it back and forth. And I don't always go over exactly the same stroke. I try to keep it varied a little bit by moving either slightly in the upward or downward direction, overlapping the brush strokes. It's not to overwork the paint, but it blends it in. So you'll notice I'll go up and down and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and up and down until I get the blend just how I like it. And I want the bottom to be a bit deeper than the middle, and I want the middle to be darker and deeper than the top. Alright, so I'm going to move this off screen a little bit. So you may have gotten your email with the bird template. And if you've been to our previous paint parties, we have used templates before. And to do the templates, you have the bird on this side. You're going to flip it over. And you're going to use this edge of your pencil, and you're going to just lay down graphite or lay down charcoal. And you're going to want to do it in 3 different directions. You want to do it this way, then cross it going this way, and then do it one more time this direction. And that deposits the most amount of graphite possible. So when you flip it back over, you can trace it, and it puts the line down right on your hand. That's an easy hack to do. But I wanted to show you that breaking down a bird is really simple. It's made of a whole bunch of little circles. So if you look here at this little guy, I think this one's probably the closest that I could find, and I found these online to our inspiration piece. So if you look at his chest is a big oval. And then we have another oval of his head and another smaller oval on his body. So if you do that over here, I'm going to do his chest and an oval for his head, and then his oval for his tail feathers. You can then draw the other shapes. So we're going to connect his neck to his chest. Can you see that? Okay. And then his head flows this direction. Skip over where his beak's going to be. And I'm rounding out his chest belly. Down under his tail feathers. What's his beak shaped like? Like that. There you go. There's his beak. Of course, his eyeball is kind of right in the middle of his head. Birds are weird looking if you really analyze it. They're beautiful, slightly weird looking. Then you can't forget his, I have no idea what that's called, bird mohawk. Somebody knows what it's called. It's not me, although I feel like I probably should know. Then you can move over to his wings. And you're using your imagination, or maybe you have one to look at. You know the basic shape of a wing. And then his legs. This one's tucked up underneath him, so we'll just do the claws that we can see. No, and they're just triangular shaped. But this leg is sort of rectangular. You know, this meaty part, the thigh. My favorite part of a turkey. We can start with basic triangle shapes. We can always round it out to make it look more natural. His skinny little bird legs and his claws. He's grabbing the branch. You can't see the branch yet. It's imaginary, but it's there. So I'm doing this toe, then I'm going to do this toe, and then we do the middle one, because that way it stays symmetrical, and you don't give too much room to one toe, and then you have to find area space for another. Remember, birds have claws. They're sharp, nice and sharp. Oh, look, that little leg is tucked way up in there. So I'm going to make my imaginary branch run that direction so it looks normal. Looks like I meant to do that. Now for his tail feathers, they just come straight down. They round at the bottom. And we're going to beef them up by another one. And then just kind of add a line or two to separate them. Gives the illusion that there's a lot more, but we don't have to draw every single tail feather. And then the bone in the middle. And that's how you sketch out your cardinal. If you really like the bird in our inspiration piece, even this one's a circle around his belly. This one's a nice chubby bird, my favorite. And I like the flow of this bird because the swoop of his chest goes right up into his neck. And then you have the top of his, so it comes up into a point. Now I'm going to jump over and do this neck part. So I proportionally know how big to make his head. So if I put his neck, it's a backwards C right on top of this oval that I'm working on. I know that his head, his beak's right here. And that tells me how big I can make his head. Like that. So we do this side and this side so that we know proportionately the middle one is about yay big. And bring that one in. And boom shakalaka, you have another bird. So my background is nice and dry. Our next step is to, so now we're gonna work on our branches. So we're gonna work on our branches. Now these, it's an illusion of a branch. Our mind fills in the gaps of going, yes, that's a tree back there in the fog, even though we can't see its exact outline. It fades in to the fog, which is the background that we've just painted. So this is gonna be a little tricky. You're gonna take your medium round brush and we are going to mix some paint. So we're mixing white in our navy color in different shades. And they're going to be, if you'll look, the branches of the tree down at the bottom of our canvas are darker than the branches at the top in the lighter color fog. So we're gonna have to blend the branch down. I'm looking for a shade that's right in the middle of my canvas. This color area is right about the color I'm looking for. And we're gonna go just a little darker. Awesome. When you have that good middle ground and roughly the colors that are hitting your canvas a little bit lower than half, that's good. That's your good middle color. We're gonna take our white paint and the color that we just mixed to do our lighter branches. And then when we get down to the bottom, we're gonna take the color that we mixed in the blue to make them darker down here. And I like to work from lightest to darkest. I'm gonna take some paint. I haven't rinsed my brush. I still have that blue color that I mixed on there. I have some more white. And I'm gonna make another little paint well right over here. I'm gonna try and squish out as much paint from my brush as I can right in that little puddle. Because we're gonna be using just the very tip of our brush to do the very fine tree-like branches up here. We don't need a whole glob of paint up there. Now, if you prefer, you can sketch the general shape of your tree with a pencil. I wouldn't sketch both sides of the tree. We're just looking for general direction. So take it right in the middle of the trunk and just go with it. And don't do it too dark because it will show through. But just lightly skim along your canvas so that you have an idea of which direction you want your branches to flow. The lighter color that I mixed, I'm using the very tip of my brush. I'm not using a whole lot of pressure up here. I'm using a feathering motion. A feathering motion is light strokes. And they don't have to be exactly right over each other. I'm not looking for a solid line. It's the illusion of the branch back there. So the lightest possible amount of pressure in a very gentle back and forth motion. And I'm gonna follow my pencil lines the best I can. Okay, and when you have all the tips of your branches done, we're gonna move into that middle color that we made, the very first one. The one that's slightly darker than the color we were just using. Don't rinse your brush, but load that color onto it. And we're gonna just take up right where we were working. Slightly overlap where you meet. And that will help our brain make the connection. Apply more pressure when you get down in the bottom half of your canvas, because your trunk needs to thicken out more. So to get the thickness of the trunk, just apply more pressure. So light pressure on the tips of the branches, more pressure on the brush as you come into the tree. Okay. So my tree branches are disappearing now into my fog, and that's telling me it's time to mix another blue. So this time I'm gonna grab some white. We're gonna add more blue to it than we did the other two colors. We're gonna mix it, mix it, mix it. So now we're gonna work on the lower branches. And just like before, overlap a little bit. Yeah, it's too dark. If it's too dark, grab more white. So slightly overlap what you were just on, and then bring it down a little bit until it disappears again. Oh, you can hear I'm rinsing my brush now because I'm done with my initial branches. They're in the background, they look nice and misty. And we're gonna put a branch in the foreground, or in the front that's closest to you, and it's gonna push these branches even further in the background. So they're gonna be nice little abstract bits in the back. So if you want to, you can take your pencil and kind of, so my tree comes out roughly here. And I'm not drawing both sides of the trunk, I'm just getting a general shape. Old craggy trees are my favorite. The ones that are all gnarled and twisted. They just look so interesting. Like if they were a person and you met them at a family reunion, you know they would have the best stories to tell. So I've got my little guy in the front, down here, this whole branch sketched out. Now I'm gonna move to the branch the bird is sitting on. This one should be pretty close to about halfway. So please ignore my pencil marks. This permanent marker is half. So if we were to visually cut our canvas in half, I think mine's about right there. The bird sits roughly, if you have an 8x10, it's roughly about an inch from your midline. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just make a pencil mark. So I know that's where my birdie should sit. And then I'm gonna take from my dot and pull it to the left. You could go to the right if you want. I'm just gonna go to the left. Make a general branch shape. Now these branches in the foreground are going to be darker than the ones we were working with. So we can start with that last color that we had down here and make it even darker. So I'm gonna add some more blue to it. And all of the branches in our foreground are the same color. So we're not having to worry about blending lighter to darker on branches. And I'm doing the one in the middle because I know if I do the one at the bottom of the canvas, I'm gonna rub my wrist through it. foreground branch has disappeared into the trunk of the ones in the back. So that tells me I made these trunks too dark. And it's a quick fix. Try and match the paint I have here and lighten these up just a little. Okay, and I'm gonna get back to work on the branches in the front. I've adjusted the color on this guy in the front. I want to imagine this branch is the closest branch to me. So I'm using just my darkest blue. It's straight. I have Admiral blue, so that's all I'm using. I'm not mixing it. It's just gonna be super dark. Now's the time to start. If you have your template, get that graphite all along the back of it. I would cut it out after you put all the graphite on the back, just so that you can, it's hard to position your bird if you can't see your whole canvas. So if you cut it out pretty close, you can say, yeah, that looks natural sitting on the branch right there. And then you just pressure right along the lines, just trace it out. But if you're gonna sketch it, I'm gonna sketch it out. Rinse out my brush really well, and then we're gonna switch to red. Okay, so I hit a really good burgundy color with adding just that blue. I'm happy with it. So I'm going to paint my entire bird blue except for his beak, his eyes, and the black face. And we're gonna shade the contours of our bird with blue. When you get to his tail feathers, remember to skip over the branch. All right, I've got my whole bird painted. Now I'm gonna use the deep blue that I have still wet on my other side of my paint palette. Just bring it over to the red side. We're gonna make a small little color pool using red and blue. I'm using black for the shadow because black will dull or mute the colors to create a shadow. But like I said, if it makes you a little nervous, don't worry. You don't have to add it because you'll still get the same effect by adding just the blue and the purple. So we're gonna deepen the contours of the bird. So that's its wing, slightly under its tail feathers, and at the bottom of his belly. So I'm gonna start by his wing. And I'm using just the tip of my brush. And I'm making up and down motions, so overlapping just a little back and forth. And we're not painting to separate his wing completely. It's just the illusion of his wing separated, created by a shadow. So when I get his wing separated, I'm going to go below the branch and shadow his tail feathers a little. And they're just small swipes in the downward motion. Cute, cute, cute. Love them already. All right, my bird is done with the red. I'm gonna rinse my brush. Now is the time to do the berries because I still got a lot of wet red paint and I want to use it before it dries. So I can take my Q-tip and we can start working on the berries that we have around. You can use your pinky if you have a really big canvas. You can, if you don't have Q-tips, you can use your brush and just fill up the flora that you've made. So my bird's still wet. I have him exactly where I want him. Now I can use the blue that I've made and go back and fill out the branch at the top of our screen. And I'm just going to put the branch right behind the bird. Okay, I'll get that branch exactly where I want it. I'm gonna put some more berries on it. And the branch will be all, our branches will be all done. Awesome. So I've got my berries everywhere. My branches are nice and pretty. My bird's wet, so I've got to shake it dry. It's very nearly dry. Clean my brush out really good. This is our very next step, and we're getting really close to being done. Is we're gonna finish his face. It's gonna be black and a burnt umber, apricot. I'm sorry, a burnt orange, or umber is brown. A burnt orange or apricot color. I have a bright pumpkin orange. I'm going to deepen it with some red and see where that gets me. If it's not quite the right color, I'm going to add some black. I did deepen it. I don't know if it's quite dark enough. I'm going to test it out. I'm going to paint it on my canvas. So if it's not dark enough, we can always paint over it darker. But I don't want to go too dark because remember, the paint is darker when it's dry. So it might look too bright to me right now. When it's dry, it could be perfect. But after it's dry and we realize it's still too bright, we can always just deepen the color a little bit and paint over it again. I'm going to flip this whole canvas upside down so I can keep my hand out of the wet paint. I think it's still too bright, so I'm gonna let it dry. Put the black base right next to it. Maybe that might change our perspective. Look better with the black base. Okay. I still have wet black on my paint palette. I'm gonna just use that. I've rinsed my brush, I've dried my brush, and I'm loading it with black. I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it. And be very careful right around the edges. I'm going to work slow and take my time so that we stay in the line. Okay, I've left his eye white because we're going to mix that. We're going to mix black and white together to make a really dark gray color to make his eye. So I've rinsed my brush even though I had black on it, because I want to take white first and then a bit of black and mix those together. When you have your dark gray, just go ahead and paint his little eyeball. It's hard to tell, it doesn't pop off the page at the moment, but it will. You just gotta let it dry first, and I'll show you the secret of bringing your paintings to life. Okay, at least his little gray eye is dry now. So, to bring any painting to life is to make his eyes look wet. And to do that, you catch the light reflecting off of their eye by adding a little bit of white. So I didn't grab a fine tip brown brush because I'm the queen of forgetting everything. So I'm going to load my brush with white, and I'm going to rotate my brush against my palette, and I'm just pointing my bristles. I don't think it's gonna load. But they're super sharp and really pointy. I'm gonna make one dot right in the bird's eye, and it brings it to life. going to leave it up just a little bit longer, and then I will switch to gallery view and we can show off our beautiful artwork. All right, everybody, I'm going to stop my screen share. We'll jump over to gallery view and we get to show off our beautiful painting if you want to. You're not required. So you want to show me what you got? Oh, you did a wonderful job, Wendy.
I can't even see mine on there. I must have myself down too low.
That's all right. I can see you, and you'll be big on my screen. Recording.
Okay. Yeah.
Very misty. I love it.
Very misty. It's true.
Hey, Chris.
You're not the best. Hey, Chris.
If you'll unmute yourself and start talking, you'll come up to my full view, or you should. I can't hear you.
Oh, Chris did the elephant.
Oh, Chris, it's beautiful. Good job. He has a heart, a purple and orange heart in his elephant.
Oh.
They're his favorite colors.
Cute.
Love it, love it.
Remind me how you did the eye. Was it
Sure.
white?
The eye is a dark gray,
Okay, gotcha.
and then it has one white dot. And the white dot is there because eyes are supposed to be wet and they catch light, and it brings them to life. Angela, did you paint something? No, that's okay. Oh, I love it. I see you used the template of this guy. He was very cute. I love him. You did good. Good job. Does anybody else want to show me theirs?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
Okay. My daughter would be 1. They're so literal.
Yes, they are. Okay, don't laugh.
Never.
Oh, it's
Wonderful job.
pretty. Yours is very misty too.
My bird is not as dark as what it looks on there.
So I'm going to email everybody what I'm thinking we should do next month. And if you're on board, we'll just throw those birds away since we've done it this month. And we'll do nose and a hat and a big nose and a whole bunch of beard. It's going to be so cute. All right. So I'll see you very soon. Bye.
We appreciate what you do, Monica.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you so much, Monica. It was fun.
You're
It was very
welcome.
fun.
Bye.